Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old White House press secretary, is widely recognized for her poised confidence. But today the tone is different. A crumpled handwritten letter had arrived on her desk. Miss Leavitt, if America first is real, come. To my farm, wrote Tom Harper, a farmer from New Hampshire determined to test the sincerity of the Trump administration's promises. Without hesitation, she accepted. Before we continue, drop a comment with where you're watching from and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future stories. As the car rolled to a stop near a muddy field, Leavitt stepped out, her high heels immediately sinking into the wet ground. She winced but quickly regained her composure. Approaching her was Tom Harper, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing mud-stained overalls. He wiped his hands on his shirt before offering a firm handshake. "Miss Leavitt, thanks for coming," he said in a rough, no-nonsense tone. "I don't need fancy words," Leavitt responded with a measured smile. "I'm not here for empty talk, Mr. Harper. I came to listen." Harper raised an eyebrow, still skeptical. He led Leavitt across the soggy field, her heels sinking deeper with each step. Stopping beside a row of withered corn, he gestured toward the brittle stalks. "Look at this," he said, his voice quiet but sharp. "Farmers like me are barely hanging on. Corn prices are lower than what it costs to grow. Fuel prices are sky high, and big corporations are taking over." Leavitt crossed her arms, mud clinging to her pant legs. Despite the setting, she stayed composed. "Mr. Harper, I understand," she replied, maintaining her usual assertiveness. "This administration has delivered real support, tax reductions, strong trade agreements. Change doesn't happen overnight." Tom smirked and cut her off. "Change? All I see is debt piling up. You've got data from Washington, but that won't keep my lights on or put food on my table." He stepped closer, his gaze direct and unflinching. "You're young, probably more familiar with reading speeches than understanding what life's like out here." Leavitt's expression hardened. "I'm not here to recite talking points," she snapped back, her tone rising. "The Trump administration has increased farm aid and boosted soybean exports to China. What else do you expect?" Tom shook his head, gesturing toward distant fields now owned by large corporations. "I want my land to stay mine, not taken over. I want fair prices, not to be crushed by monopolies." The air grew tense. Leavitt drew a breath, steadying her tone. "That's the nature of the free market, Mr. Harper. Competition is part of it." Tom burst into laughter, the sound cutting through the open field. "Competition?" he echoed. "This isn't competition, it's destruction. Corporations wait for us to fail, then buy our land cheap. They control the prices, that's not freedom." He knelt down and scooped a handful of soil, holding it out to her. "This land is everything. It's in my blood, my father's and my grandfather's. Do you know what it's like to lose that?" Leavitt stared at the dirt in his weathered hands. It gave her pause. Though she was raised in New Hampshire and her family ran a small business, she'd never experienced a reality quite like this. "I didn't come here to argue," she said quietly. "It's a process," she said, her voice softening slightly. "Change doesn't happen overnight. The administration can't fix everything instantly." Tom let the soil fall from his hand, dust drifting in the air. "We don't have that kind of time, Miss Leavitt. Families are breaking under debt. My kids don't want to take over the farm because they see the struggle. Do you think talk like that gives anyone hope?" Leavitt felt a quiet frustration rise, not directed at Tom, but at the helplessness he revealed so clearly. "So what do you want?" she asked, her tone firmer. "And the free market? Give out subsidies?" Tom looked her squarely in the eye. "I'm not asking for charity. I want policies that protect farmers, not ones that favor big corporations." She opened her mouth to respond, but Tom held up a hand to stop her. "Have you ever grown anything yourself? Or just sat behind a desk posting videos?" The words landed sharply. Leavitt flushed. She had never worked the land, never experienced this world firsthand. "I'm not just a spokesperson," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "I came because I care," Tom shrugged. "Caring's a start, but it's not enough. You need to understand us. He turned and walked toward the small wooden house, leaving Leavitt standing in the field, her breathing uneven. She knew how to debate, how to make a point. But this was different. Tom wasn't just criticizing the administration. He was questioning her. From the porch, Sarah, Tom's wife, appeared. Her faded floral dress fluttered gently in the breeze. "Come inside," she called out, her tone calm but firm. Leavitt looked at Sarah, then back at the cornfield. She exhaled slowly, then followed. The mud on her shoes no longer mattered. A quiet question stayed with her. Did she truly understand what life was like for people like Tom? She had come to defend the America First promise, but now she wondered if it was a promise truly being kept. Karoline Leavitt stepped into Tom Harper's modest wooden home, her muddy heels marking the worn floor. The kitchen was simple and warm. Scarred wooden table, faded chairs, and the scent of fresh cornbread in the air. Sarah placed a steaming bowl of mashed potatoes on the table, her worn hands shaking slightly as she added another spoonful. "Please, sit," she said, her voice soft but weary. Tom stood against the wall, arms crossed, still carrying the tension from their earlier exchange. Leavitt eased into a chair, feeling disconnected from the world she was used to. The polished press rooms, the prepared speeches. Sarah placed a small plate in front of her. Golden cornbread, mashed potatoes, a modest slice of roasted chicken. "We make all this ourselves," Sarah said, her eyes flickering with sadness. "But even meals like this are becoming hard to afford." Leavitt lifted her fork, paused, then tasted the cornbread. Its rustic sweetness filled her mouth, but the weight of Sarah's words made it hard to enjoy. "What do you mean?" she asked gently. Tom spoke up, his tone blunt. "It means we feed the nation but can't feed our own families. Our earnings don't cover the bills." He pulled out a chair and sat across from her, his gaze steady and cold. "You think farming's just hard work? It's also debt, disappointment, and watching your kids walk away because they don't see a future." Leavitt placed her fork down, feeling a tightness in her chest. She remembered their conversation in the field, his words about tradition, loss, and the crushing weight of corporate power. In this kitchen, they felt even heavier. Sarah sat beside Tom, resting her hands on the table. Her fingers were thin, calloused, shaped by years of work. "Our oldest, Ben, used to want to take over," she said, her voice trembling. "But now he tells me, 'Mom, I don't want to suffer like Dad.' I had to teach him to let go of the family dream," Sarah said quietly. Leavitt looked from Sarah to Tom. His hands were gripping the edge of the table, the deep lines in his skin speaking volumes about years of hard work and hardship. "I don't blame him," Tom added, "but I do blame the system, the very one you stand behind." Leavitt felt a shift within her. It wasn't anger, but a growing discomfort. She had come to affirm the America First promise, but the reality these two shared made it clear that promise wasn't reaching everyone. "I'm not defending injustice," she replied slowly, "but real change takes time." Tom gave a skeptical smirk, but before he could speak, Sarah raised a hand. "Time doesn't wait for us, Miss Leavitt," she said. "The banks close in and corporations are always ready to take over. We don't have the time to wait." She stood and picked up a small knife, handing it to Leavitt. "Try cutting this," Sarah said, gesturing to a basket of potatoes on the table. Leavitt hesitated, gripping the knife awkwardly. Cooking wasn't something she did often, and now, under Tom and Sarah's quiet watch, she felt self-conscious. She made a cut, but the piece landed unevenly on the table. Tom let out a short chuckle, the first real moment of ease on his face. "Not bad for someone new," he said, though his voice still carried a slight edge. Sarah offered a soft, sad smile. "We do this every day, but no one pays what it's really worth." Leavitt looked at the uneven slice, then up again. "I understand. Your hardship's more than I realized," she said sincerely. "But I need to know the specifics. What exactly do you want from the administration?" Tom studied her, as if weighing her intent. "No handouts," he said firmly. "We need regulations that prevent corporations from controlling prices. We need protection for small farms and our land. Can your team deliver that?" Leavitt fell silent, not rushing to respond. Her eyes moved around the modest kitchen, family portraits, a hairline crack in the wall, signs of long-term struggle. Sarah placed more cornbread on the table. "Please have another," she said. "We sell this at the markets, but even that's not enough anymore." Leavitt took a piece, the warmth of the food contrasting with the stark reality around her. She looked again at Tom and Sarah. They weren't complaining. They were giving her a window into their lives. "I hear you," she said, her voice now more resolute. "And I will take your story back with me to Washington." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Talking is easy. Acting on it, that's the hard part." Leavitt didn't argue. She knew the weight of that statement. Sarah leaned forward. "Can you stay a little longer?" she asked. Leavitt offered a small smile. "If it's all right with you." Tom let out a quiet breath, neither a yes nor a no, but he didn't object. The room fell quiet except for the sound of forks on plates, an unspoken understanding settling among them. After the meal, Tom rose from his seat, wiping his hands on his overalls. His expression remained cautious, but now there was a trace of interest. "Miss Leavitt," he said in a measured tone, "if you really want to understand farmers, come with me to the field." Karoline Leavitt put her fork down and looked at Sarah, who gave her an encouraging nod. She stood, her stomach tightening slightly with nerves. "All right," she replied. Tom led her to the backyard, where an old John Deere tractor stood tall amid rows of struggling corn. The sun bore down, and the wind tossed her hair across her face. She studied the machine, its chipped green paint, tires caked with mud, and felt completely out of place. "This is what feeds America," Tom said, patting the side of the tractor. "Ever driven one?" Leavitt smiled uneasily, her high heels sinking slightly into the dirt. "No, but I'm a quick learner." Tom's lip twitched, almost like a dare. "Then get on, let's see." She hesitated, glancing down at the thick mud. Then she turned to the crew. "Cut the cameras for a moment," she said. But Tom shook his head. "No. If you're here to prove America first, do it all the way." Leavitt exhaled, bent down, and removed her heels, setting them carefully on a nearby rock. Barefoot, she climbed onto the tractor's platform. The metal felt cold under her feet. Tom gestured toward the seat. "Sit there, hit the gas, hold the wheel, that's it." She hoisted herself up, her office skirt tugging at her knees as she reached for the wheel. Leavitt pressed the gas pedal as Tom instructed. The tractor jolted, engine roaring to life, and lurched forward unevenly. The ground trembled under the heavy wheels, until seconds later it sank into a muddy patch. The front tires swallowed deep into the earth. Leavitt flinched, instinctively releasing the wheel as the tractor tilted dangerously, nearly throwing her off. "Hit the brake!" Tom shouted, rushing forward. She scrambled for the lever, yanking it just in time. The tractor let out a metallic screech as it ground to a halt. Tom exhaled hard, looking at her with a mix of frustration and amusement. "Simple, huh?" he said, with a smirk. Then gesturing toward the sunken tire, he added, "Consider that your first test, now fix it." Leavitt climbed down, her skirt splattered with mud, but she didn't complain. "Show me," she said, her voice steady. Tom raised an eyebrow, visibly surprised by her determination. He crouched beside the tire, pulled a small shovel from the toolbox, and started digging around the wheel. "Take this," he said, handing her an old bucket. "Scoop the dirt." Leavitt knelt beside him, silently shoveling mud into the bucket. Sweat slid down her forehead, but she stayed focused. "You're doing fine," Tom muttered. His tone had softened. "But remember, this isn't some weekend hobby. It's survival." Bit by bit, the tire came free. Tom stood and wiped his hands clean. "Get back on," he said. "Go slow this time." Leavitt nodded, climbed back, up and gripped the wheel tighter. The tractor rolled forward again, this time with steady control. As it moved, she felt its weight. Not just the engine and steel, but the life behind it. Tom walked beside her, quietly watching. "This ain't just work," he said, voice low. "My dad's hands were on this wheel. So were my granddad's. This land, it's not just soil. It's tradition, it's family. Leavitt glanced at Tom's hands, calloused, weathered, stained by years in the dirt. She said nothing, letting the meaning of his words settle. The tractor came to a stop at a corn row. Tom gestured to kill the engine. She obeyed, climbing down. Her bare feet were caked with mud. "I don't fully understand it yet," she admitted. "Honestly. But I'm learning." Tom looked at her, suspicion fading. "Learning's a start," he said. "But we need more than talk. We need policies that stop land grabs and price rigging." Leavitt nodded. The mud was cold underfoot, but something about the moment felt grounded, even warm. Tom picked a wilted corn stalk and handed it to her. "Take this," he said. "This is what you should remember. Not statistics, not speeches." Leavitt held the stalk. Its brittle dryness was a clear reminder of everything she'd seen. She looked out across the field, stretching into the horizon, where the sky kissed the land. "I'm not here to make empty promises," she said, her tone now unwavering. "But I need you to show me how to get it right." Tom nodded once. "Fine," he said, "but don't expect me to go easy." Karoline Leavitt sat barefoot in the back of a sleek black SUV as dusk wrapped around Tom Harper's farm. Her feet were clean again, but the dry cornstalk still lay in her hands, rough, heavy, unforgettable. She stared out the window as the fields faded into shadows, Tom's voice echoing in her thoughts. Real policies, not promises. This visit had changed something. It wasn't about optics anymore. It had become a responsibility. Back in the White House, she entered her bright office, her mud-stained skirt drawing a few stares from nearby aides. She opened her laptop and began typing. Protect small farmers. Stop corporate price manipulation. Preserve farmland. The cornstalk sat beside her like a quiet witness. The next morning, Leavitt walked into the White House briefing room, where senior advisors waited. Tension was immediate. She placed the cornstalk on the table between them, its presence stark against the polished surface. "We need new policies to support small farmers," she said, voice firm. "I was just in New Hampshire. They're being crushed by corporations. The pricing is unsustainable." Richard Hayes, silver-haired and seasoned, leaned back with a skeptical smile. "Miss Leavitt, we already have aid programs. Small farms aren't a strategic priority. Corporations keep the economy running." She took a breath, recalling the tractor, the mud, and Tom's hands. "Economic drivers don't justify letting the people who feed this country fail," she said. "These corporations manipulate prices and swoop in when farmers are desperate. That's not capitalism. It's exploitation." Hayes tapped his pen on the table. "You're young. This is how the system works. We can't save every farm." Leavitt's jaw clenched. "They're not asking to be saved," she snapped. "They just want a fair chance. Something we promised when we said America first." Another advisor, Ellen Grant, interjected. "We don't have the budget for this. Are you proposing subsidies?" "No," Leavitt replied. "Protective policies block unfair corporate practices, stabilize prices, keep land in the hands of the farmers." Hayes scoffed. "Sounds like market interference. The president won't go for it." Leavitt stood, pointing at the cornstalk. "This is reality, not theory." "I need your help to spread this story," Leavitt said. Tom raised an eyebrow, eyeing Mia, young, bold, dyed green hair and live-streaming on her phone. "What's this? More media?" he asked, the tension clear in his voice. Leavitt stepped closer. "Not just the media. This is how we fight back, by showing the country what's really happening." Before Tom could reply, a sleek white truck pulled up, kicking dust into the air. A man in a sharp gray suit stepped out, slicked back hair and a briefcase in hand. "Mr. Harper," he said with false warmth, "I'm Greg Vance from AgriCorp. We've got a final offer for your land, better than last time." The air grew dense. Tom's jaw tightened as he stepped forward. "I said no, this land's not for sale." Vance's smile thinned as he opened his briefcase and pulled out a contract. "You don't have a choice. The bank's about to foreclose. We're doing you a favor." Leavitt cut in, her tone ice. "A favor? Or forcing him into bankruptcy so you can buy cheap. Vance turned, caught off guard by her presence. And you are? Karoline Leavitt, White House press secretary, she replied. Coolly? And I know exactly what you're doing. Rigging prices, stealing farmers' land. Mia, already live streaming, jumped in excitedly. Guys, drama alert. Big corp versus small farmer. Vance flushed but kept his tone even. This is business, Miss Leavitt. The market decides. Tom took a step forward, his voice sharp. Your market is choking us. Corn prices drop because of you. Then you buy our land when we're drowning in debt. Leavitt turned to Mia. Zoom in on that paper. Mia focused the camera, capturing the shockingly low offer on the contract. Leavitt's voice rang out across the field. This is proof. Agricorp doesn't buy land, they steal it. Vance snatched the paper back, growling, You've got no right to interfere. Sarah emerged quietly, holding a basket of cornbread. She walked toward Leavitt, her eyes steady. They do, she said simply, handing over the basket. This is what we make, but you make it so we can't live. Leavitt held the basket, turning. To Vance, the New Hampshire test policy will stop this. We'll limit your power and protect land like Mr. Harper's, Mia added, her voice buzzing through the stream. She's for real, y'all. The White House is moving. Vance's smirk returned. Policy? It's not here yet. You'll regret this, Harper. Tom looked at Leavitt, then back at Vance. Doubt and hope warred in his eyes. You mean it? He asked quietly. I do, Leavitt said. I took your story to the president. We're going to fight this. Tom's voice dropped, steady and resolute. Get off my land. Vance's expression soured as he turned, storming back to his truck. You'll go bankrupt, he warned before speeding, off in a cloud of dust. Leavitt exhaled, turning to Tom. See, we can win. Tom stared at her, suspicion softening. For the first time, you're not bad, he said with a faint smile. But I'm still waiting on that policy. Mia shut off the live stream, grinning. This video is going to blow up. 2 million views already. Leavitt handed the basket to Sarah. Thanks for trusting me, Sarah nodded. You gave us hope, but hope needs to be real. As the film crew packed up, they caught a powerful image. Leavitt, Tom, Sarah, and Mia standing. In the open field, a rare and unlikely alliance. Leavitt took out her phone and posted on X. New Hampshire farmers fight corporations. Test policy incoming. Here, America first. The post exploded online, thousands of likes pouring in. Tom glanced at her, half joking, half serious. You're good at social media, Leavitt smiled. I use it to fight for you. We're not done yet. As Greg Vance's truck disappeared into the distance, Leavitt remained rooted in the field. Mia checked her phone. 3 million views, she shouted. People are losing it. Leavitt's smile barely flickered. Her eyes were on Tom and Sarah, still waiting for something real. You did good today, Tom said softly. But I'm still waiting on that policy. You'll see, Leavitt promised. Then she got into the car with Mia and the crew, carrying the fragile hope they'd sparked. Weeks passed. One morning at the Harper farm, Tom was fixing a fence when the radio crackled from the kitchen. A news anchor's voice rang out. Breaking from Washington, President Trump has approved a test policy in New Hampshire, limiting corporate land grabs and supporting crop prices for small farmers. Tom dropped his pliers, rushing inside. Sarah stood frozen. She did it, he whispered. Sarah turned to him, eyes glowing. Miss Leavitt kept her word. Tom grabbed his phone and called. Miss Leavitt, is this real? On the other end, Leavitt sat in her White House office, a quiet smile on her face. Real, Mr. Harper. First step, but we're on track. Tom hung up slowly, looking at Sarah. I didn't expect it, he admitted, sinking into a chair. A weight lifted. She's different from the rest, Sarah said softly. She heard us. Outside, sunlight touched the cornfield. Still wilted, but now touched with hope. Tom texted Leavitt, Thanks, but don't stop. Her reply came instantly. I won't. Can you help me? Tom smirked. Fine, I'll show you how to do it right. From then on, he became her unofficial advisor, calling her, sharing stories, helping shape the policy from the ground up. In her office, Leavitt looked at the old cornstalk still resting on her desk, a symbol, a reminder. She opened her laptop, reading through farmer feedback from New Hampshire, some grateful, others skeptical, all waiting to see if it was real. She thought of how far she'd come, from spokesperson to fighter, no longer just speaking. Now she was listening and acting. The time with Tom and Sarah had changed her, not just in her job, but in how she saw her duty. Sitting in her DC office, Leavitt video called her young son, watching him play with a toy tractor. Her voice softened, barely a whisper. "Mom's doing this for people like Mr. Harper." Then she opened X and typed, "New test policy starts in New Hampshire. Small farmers were protected. This is real. Now America first." The post exploded. Tens of thousands of likes and comments pouring in. "Finally someone cares," one said. "She's not messing around, y'all," Mia reposted. Corn prices in New Hampshire ticked up slightly. A few foreclosures paused. It wasn't a miracle, not yet, but it was a start. At the Harper farm, Tom and Sarah sat on their porch listening to birds in the soft light. "She gave us a chance," Sarah said, sipping coffee. Tom nodded, his tone more thoughtful than before. "I doubted her for a long time, but not now." He stood, eyes on the field. "If this policy spreads, Ben might change his mind." Sarah smiled quietly. They weren't rich, but for the first time in years they felt seen. Then Leavitt returned. No announcement, no cameras. Blazing, just her and a small crew pulling into the drive. Tom opened the door, blinking. "Miss Leavitt?" She smiled and shook his hand, firmer than their first meeting. "I'm here to check in," she said. Inside, he pointed at a pile of bills. Foreclosures paused. "Corn's up, not huge, but enough to breathe." She nodded. "We'll expand it." Sarah placed a fresh basket of cornbread on the table. "You changed things," she said. Leavitt took a bite and smiled. "No, we did." Tom gave her a real smile this time. "You're not all talk. I trust you now." Leavitt met his gaze. "Good. I need that trust to keep going." She left with the basket still warm in her hands, like a symbol of the fragile trust they'd built. On the drive back to Washington, she checked her X post. Now, over 10,000 shares. Farmers from across the country chimed in, some grateful, others skeptical, but they were watching. Back at her desk, she called Tom. "The policy's live. What's happening on the ground?" Tom didn't sugarcoat it. "Better, but banks are still circling. AgriCorp hasn't backed off." Leavitt nodded slowly. "I want to expand. Roads, irrigation, equipment." Tom was quiet, then said, "Sounds decent. Bad roads cost us, equipment's dying, but don't just talk, do." She smiled. "I'm doing it." "Will you guide me?" He agreed. "If you keep your word, I'll help." She flew back to New Hampshire, again unannounced. At the Harper farm, Tom laughed when he saw her. "Don't you get tired?" "No," she said, "because we're not done." They walked the field together. The corn was greener. "I need a new tractor," Tom admitted. "Old one's breaking." She jotted it down. "I'll push for equipment aid." Sarah chimed in. "Ben asked if farming has a future. I told him yes because of you." Leavitt stopped walking. "Really?" Sarah nodded. "He saw you fight. He's rethinking it." Tom stepped in. "But he needs more than a test. He needs to see it stick." Leavitt's voice turned resolute. "I know. I'm taking this national." Tom raised an eyebrow. "That big?" She didn't flinch. "That big." She filmed a video right there in the field. This is New Hampshire, where farmers like Mr. Harper fight to keep their land. The test policy is working, but we need more: roads, equipment, and long-term protection. Farmers are America's backbone. America first must stand with them. The video blew up. Farmers from Iowa, Kansas, California flooded her inbox. "When's it our turn?" Leavitt returned to D.C. and pitched Trump directly. "New Hampshire's a win. Prices are up, land is held. Let's scale it. Nationwide infrastructure. Equipment. Trump grinned. You're doing good, Karoline. I like big wins. Gopher. Good. Back at the farm, Tom and Sarah watched their children play across the field, laughter echoing. She's changing things, Sarah said. Tom nodded, quieter than usual. Can't believe I trust her. But she's real. He looked out at the horizon. If this scales, I'll tell Ben, keep this dream alive. Sarah squeezed his hand. We've got a shot now. In her D.C. office, Leavitt read headlines praising the test policy. But trouble followed. AgriCorp filed a lawsuit claiming market interference. She didn't flinch. She picked up the phone and called Tom. We're going bigger. Are you ready? Tom chuckled. Ready, you? Leavitt smiled. I was born for this. Later, cameras captured her at the White House podium. American farmers aren't forgotten anymore, she said, voice ringing out. New Hampshire is just the start. We're bringing roads, equipment, and justice to every field. This is America first. The crowd clapped, but far away, Tom and Sarah watched from home, the real audience. In the quiet kitchen, Tom wrote a letter by hand. Miss Leavitt, you gave us a future, don't stop. He sent it, and she read it on a late-night drive, the paper trembling slightly in her fingers. The crew zoomed in on her face under soft dashboard light, eyes blazing with something more than ambition. This wasn't just politics anymore, this was personal. She and Tom had sparked something real, and the battle? It had only just begun.